Is Josh Allen the best football player in the world right now as the Bills beat the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football? And we're making picks for the rest of the week. 3 games on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Love our everydayers and appreciate you stopping in. Make sure you're all subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts, especially if you're new to the program. Welcome and hang out with us as we talk ball every single day here throughout the 2025 season and into the 2026 offseason. That's what we do every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode of P&W is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Well, two teams going in opposite directions right now. The 3-0 Buffalo Bills victorious on Thursday night to kick off week 3 against the 0-3 Miami Dolphins. Dolphins put up a fight, at least in this one. 31-21, though, the final. And even though the Dolphins went down, scored the first points in this game, and even though it was tied 14-14 at halftime, I never really felt like the Bills were in danger. It was just sort of almost an inevitability of Josh Allen going down the field, scoring a few more times in the fourth quarter, and going to win in that football game. And maybe that's a false sense, and maybe these teams are closer than I gave them credit for, and didn't quite hit that 11.5 line. It was a 10-point win for the Buffalo Bills, but it just felt all along like the Bills weren't in trouble here at all. And they didn't need Josh Allen to go crazy in this game. He threw the ball 28 times, an efficient 22 completions on those, only 213 yards, but the 3 scores. And to your point off the air, you were talking about the conversations you've had elsewhere about Josh Allen right now. Maybe the scariest man in football.
Yeah, and I give the Dolphins credit. That's clearly the best they've played. And a couple notes on them is I thought their cornerback room after the Jalen Ramsey trade might be the worst position group in the entire league. And they keep losing corners since then. And I guess if you have borderline roster guys to begin with and you replace them with borderline roster guys that weren't on your team, I guess it's not that big a difference maybe the more I think it through. But at least this was progress for them. And I do think there's something to be said about just overlooking a desperate team, that they're going to come out and play their best. But their best still isn't good enough to beat the Bills in Buffalo. And I think the Bills have a couple guys that Bosa, Kincaid, Cook, that they should be pretty happy about right now, where they're starting to all be better and better and better and more useful. But I had the conversation with Wig on Locked On NFL just like an hour ago, and he threw it out there and said, Josh Allen's the best quarterback on the planet. And I went, I agree. Lamar is really, really close. I'm sure Ravens fans are losing their mind, and that's fine. You have a strong case if you say Lamar's better. I'm not talking about resume or all-time greats. I'm just who do you want to play against right this minute? I think Allen's my last choice.
Yeah, and Allen probably has less. And the way this team is built, too, and by the way, big stock up for Dalton Kincaid, now healthy this year. Clearly, they're looking at him a lot. He led the team in targets in this one and receptions, 5 catches for 66. Not a huge line. Did have a score, but almost had another score. And it could have been, if you're looking at a fantasy football tight end right now, he was a guy that was not highly taken in a lot of leagues. And that's why I have a lot of stock in Dalton Kincaid in my fantasy leagues. And tight end 1 the rest of the year. That's the way I'm treating him, at least.
I agree. And I would have him probably in the top 7 or 8, something like that, in terms of fantasy tight ends if we were to redraft. Ahead of like the Mark Andrews of the world,
And I would say kind of the opposite. The early returns on Keon Coleman, they went after him a lot and they targeted him a lot in week 1. There's not a lot of separation there with him. He's a weird player. And there's so many middle of the field. I think the big problem on offense for me with this Buffalo Bills team is Kincaid, Shakir, Elijah Moore. Keon Coleman's like a big playing the X role, but he's a big slot guy. That's just what he should do, probably, right?
I think that's why they traded for Amari Cooper last year, is they needed like an X, you know.
Yeah,
and,
they have all middle of the field receivers and nobody on the outside for that special talent in Josh Allen, who could really, as well as anybody in the NFL, utilize someone on the outside. So you got a guy like Tyrell Shavers, looks like their best outside receiver right now, and I never even heard of the guy coming into the year.
That's a great point. They are a little redundant, and even Kincaid, obviously, they're all middle of the field guys, you know. And we saw a slightly lesser version of Allen. I think he's better now than ever. Rip teams apart when they had Diggs, you know. What would this version do with
Gabe Davis? And
yeah.
They could use something like that, but they're not hurting right now. They're going to be fine on offense and playing some good defense as well. Just really quick point.
Not a lot of big personnel too, like that Jackson Haas dude, an extra O lineman, and real physical and big at the O line.
Bringing out an extra O, having utilizing other tight ends aside from Kincaid. He's more the smaller receiving type of a tight end, and making the most out of losing one of their better defensive players too at defensive tackle. And I was really keeping a close eye on Deion Walker in this game, the rookie, and I was hoping to see more impact from the second rounder and TJ Sanders, who I think could be dynamite as a pass rusher, but he hasn't gotten a lot of traction early in his rookie year yet for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, they do have a lot of bodies there, though, young bodies, but we'll see.
It reminds me of the Packers a little bit in that they have a lot of, it's like, oh, shoot, someone got hurt. It was like, well, we're like the youngest team in the league and have all these extra guys that we've been drafting. And the Bills aren't quite there like the Packers are, but you feel good when someone goes down, whereas you look at other teams like, oh, no, can you overcome this one singular injury? So depth, really important. And we're going to talk more about injuries throughout the NFL right now. Just one quick note here on the Dolphins before we move on and make it picks for week 3. There's been the sentiment that maybe Tyreek Hill's a little bit cooked. Something's definitely still off, even though this is the best game of the year from Tua in that group. But Tua's throwing half of his passes behind the line of scrimmage. 0.3 average.
O-line's bad.
Quarterback's bad. The O-line is bad. Tua doesn't really look all super confident either. Tyreek Hill still making plays, even though it's off. Devon Achane's still fast and 5.2 yards per carry. I can't figure out exactly something's just way off for the Miami Dolphins. Even when they played better in this game, it's just like, I don't know if what's going to happen is the coach is going to get fired, but is it more on Tua? Do you think? What do you point your finger at with this Miami Dolphins team right now? Is it personnel outside of Achane and Tyreek Hill and Waddle?
And even Waddle starting to, he's been productive lately too. I mean, and even Malik Washington, he's returning kicks, and that's your third receiver, but they're also a little redundant too. All 4 of those guys look the same, no matter what position they play.
He's very big.
I was not big on Ollie Gordon in the draft, but it looks like he's slimmed down, and I think that was a nice addition of a physical running back. At least you had a guy that could break a tackle. Yeah,
and he wasn't drafted early or anything too. So.
No, I mean I like Achane, but it may be crazy. Like he was a goal line back last year. Like people just throw him around. Like he can't. You need some between the tackle physicality. I think a lot of it though is just they don't protect well, and the whole planet knows that the ball's coming out of Tua's hands quick, even though he's good at it. And I also think the scheme has been, I don't want to say figured out, but it's not shocking anybody anymore. All the crazy motions and Tyreek Hill running a 4-2 before the snap even happens, like it doesn't scare people as much as it did a year ago, Right.
Well, you can't build the entire cake out of frosting, I think is the way I'd put it right
1,000%. Yeah. I do the Ferraris and dump truck conversation with all the time. Right. Yeah.
Next, there's a lot of banged up stars in the NFL. News on Jayden Daniels, Tucker Kraft, which affects our picks in previewing Week 3 matchups across the NFL. Next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend, and it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. these players delivered when it mattered most. So let's break it down. And I want to point out that Josh Allen to Dalton Kincaid connection, I think that is strong. I think that's going to grow, and it's going to remain for Josh Allen. And Josh Allen talked about it before the season. He's like, look out, like this is going to be a good connection for us this year. And it actually absolutely has been. And so if you can still somehow get Dalton Kincaid in your fantasy leagues, go priority waiver claim him. When the pressure was on, they came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. And they are on a streak now, the Buffalo Bills. And just like Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills delivered, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash streaks. So you save every Saturday you order. Stack up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday to keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. The NFL season, it is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. And FanDuel, being America's #1 sportsbook, has tons of ways for you to play, and a fantastic offer for our listeners right now. New customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I don't know how much longer this offer is going to last, but it's the most bonus bets I've ever seen FanDuel give away in all the years that they've been a sponsor of our network. $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. College football, weekly lines from now through the end of the season, tons of season-long props as well, parlays, and even jump in live as the action unfolds. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. So what are we hearing about Jayden Daniels? The Washington Commanders are hosting the Las Vegas Raiders here, and obviously this is going to be a massive influence on what the line is and what our picks are. Right now, Commanders are favored by 3.5 points, Matt, as the 1-1 Commanders host the 1-1 Raiders.
Does that line imply to you that it's Mariota? Because I think that is going to be Mariota when it's said and done.
I think it'll move more if it's official. I think it's kind of halfway there, though, right now. Because I feel like
they're kind of playing the...
I'd put this line at 6, right? Or something like that.
That's why I thought it seemed light to me for Daniels. But Washington hasn't been tremendous this year. I think they'll run Mariota a lot. I'm going to operate on Friday at noon Eastern that it's going to be Mariota. So I'm going to take the points on the road. But I really think the Raiders need to get Gentry going. That's bothering.
That's huge. Well, first of all, can we get any rookie running back doing anything in the NFL?
Exactly.
But let's start with the guy who was drafted first, the top 10 pick in Ashton Gentry. I'm with you there on this one. Could be an ugly game. I'm not the biggest Mariota guy. It is in Washington, so they probably should be favored even with Mariota. But, man, I think that's rough. And right now it's looking like no Jayden Daniels. So give me the points, and I think the Raiders can keep this within a field goal and in an ugly one. But, yeah, that's one that you kind of put aside, and you got to kind of wait. And you hope it's nothing that's going to continue to bother Jayden Daniels throughout his season.
Actually, I just got news on my phone right this second that they are going to start Mariota.
Okay, well, there you go. 3.5. We locked in that 3.5 before that drops to
2.5 or whatever. Right?
Yeah. It'll move a little bit, I'm sure, from there. How about Tucker Kraft? And he's your boy, right?
Oh, I love him.
And he's not practicing. But so it's kind of good and bad news with Tucker Kraft. So this injury didn't happen in the game in week 2. It happened at Thursday's practice. It's a knee injury. So a sigh of relief. This isn't like an ACL or something big and long term. So good news there. But he's not practicing, and very much in doubt whether Tucker Kraft's able to go this week, which is the bad news part of this, as the Packers at 2-0, looking like the best team in football through 2 weeks, go to the 0-2 Cleveland Browns. Packers favored by 7.5 points here.
We already know Reed is out. I've always kind of liked Musgrave, though, too. Excuse me. I also think Golden is a little bit of a sleeping giant in terms of fantasy. I think Golden's played quite well. Just that the numbers haven't been awesome.
He hasn't
So
been on the field as much. And so I think just the opportunity to be out there, this could be that Matthew Golden breakout week.
I could absolutely see that. I think the Packers are an easy pick here in that you just say they might be the best team in the league. The Browns may be the worst team in the league. But I think the Browns defense is good at home. No Kraft. I'll take the points. I don't think they win.
We're going to get the full Monty of Micah Parsons, right? The full Micah. Because he's coming off the mini bye last week. It was the Packers were a Thursday nighter, right? In week 2?
Yes.
So I imagine we're going to see not the limited, okay, we're going to
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
you know what I mean? We're going to see 60 snaps of Micah Parsons in this game, right? And the Packers are playing better football than anybody. And when you have like a first round wide receiver where you're like, oh yeah, I guess we could start using that guy now. You know, talking about how deep this Packers team is, I think you can absolutely overcome the Tucker Kraft injury for a week. The Browns looked awful last week. I know they're at home, and I think
a hard time picking them.
I think you're smart to pick the points here, but man, earlier in the season I would have, but I just think these two teams are on opposite spectrums right now. So I like the Packers big.
I think we're on the cusp of seeing a rookie quarterback in Cleveland too.
Yeah, which usually is not a good sign.
No.
Real quick note: we already picked the Colts and the Titans, but can we not have nice tight ends? What's going on? George Kittle already on IR, and now Tyler Warren is banged up as well.
I didn't know that.
Colts, who's been like their Daniel Jones' main guy. Like that's
Warren and Kraft have been big time breakout guys.
Dude, yeah. So
I was not aware of that. That doesn't change my pick or anything, but man, these injuries are no fun.
Speaking of injuries, there's a little bit of good news and bad news for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the New York Jets. So it's the 0-2 Jets that are at the 2-0 Buccaneers. I think the Bucs should be favored pretty big in this one. To be honest with you, does it really change that much that Justin Fields is not going to play? It is officially going to be Tyrod Taylor for the New York Jets in this one. The thing that's probably been the most disappointing thing about the Jets is their defense. And looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Chris Godwin is potentially coming back. He's listed, I think, as questionable right now, but Emeka Egbuka hasn't been practicing this week, and he's banged up. So
I don't think he's going to play the last I saw, too. And they also have some O-line stuff going on in Tampa. But, boy, the Jets were miserable last week. I'll take the home team. You said 6.5, right?
6.5, yeah. Bucs by 7. The Jets defense. I mean, just defensively, the Jets haven't been what you would have expected, defensive-minded head coach, and they still have some talent on that football team. It was a fun game in week 1, but now you lose your starting quarterback.
I'm switching. I'm going the Jets here. I think Sauce is really, really playing well and should give Evans a lot. And I don't like the status of the Bucs O-line right now. I'm gonna take the Jets to at least keep it close with Tyrod.
Tyrod versus Fields, the passing game probably won't change a ton. It won't be worse. Like you probably feel great about, you feel fine with, Garrett Wilson in your fantasy league still. But what Justin Fields brings as a runner, which is really the important part of what he does, is obviously not going to be there. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It all just turns out ugly to me in this one.
So I'm just taking low scoring game and betting on the Jets defensive.
You know what? You're going to beat me this week bad because you're making smart picks and I'm not, but I'm still going to take the Buccaneers. So here we go.
I think just taking points early in the season is smart overall. I never buy into that.
Well, that's where I was earlier in the season, but I'm seeing these bad teams and just like they look so bad. I'm like, I just can't. I can't just say points, and especially not at home either. It's tough for me. So show me something more, Jets, on defense specifically.
I hear you.
All right, we got more to pick here. And you know what? Let's get one more in here. Looking at the slate of games, how about the Los Angeles Rams at the Philadelphia Eagles, which should be a pretty good one. We got a good Monday nighter as well to get to next, but it's the 2-0 Rams and the 2-0 Eagles. Something's got to give. Someone's got to lose a football game. It could be a tie, I guess. Philadelphia Eagles at home favored by 3.5 points here.
Because of the half, I want the Rams. I'm going to trust McVay. I think Stafford's playing tremendous, and maybe it's just like a one-off on the MVP conversation. There is a a number 2 corner issue for the Eagles, and I think this is a really bad team to have a number 2 corner issue. And the Rams corners and secondary overall, I think, are pretty suspect, but the Eagles have like no pass attempts and don't do anything through the air right now.
Well, they haven't had to. So that's
they haven't had
game.
to.
That's the game for me. Is that Rams defense ready to force the Eagles into third down situations where they have to throw? Right.
Yeah.
And then now we're talking about
they can.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm definitely taking that extra half though.
Yeah, I'm with you. 3.5. I like that to keep this one within a field goal for the Rams on the road. And this is more of a game where I think we're going to learn a lot about these two teams. And if the Eagles can just pound the rock on everybody every single week, I mean, come on, somebody put up a fight here because they haven't even had to throw the football.
Yeah, force them to at least do what they don't do great,
And I'm just this is there. And this is how my mind works. Saquon Barkley, 40 carries already. He had 400 touches last year.
Didn't realize that.
Chill out, Eagles. You're trying to win some games in January.
At least they traded for Tank. They recognize that there could be a problem.
Right. Yeah. They brought in a Tank. So I don't know if he's ready to go and he'll get a lot of looks. It might be too close of a game for that. But at some point, you got to worry about the tread on Saquon Barkley's tires.
That's a great point. I hadn't been monitoring it.
Next, we've got a Monday Night Football game that consists of the Detroit Lions. Which Lions do we believe in? The Week 1 team or the Week 2 team? And the Baltimore Ravens. Kind of, you could ask a similar question, although this is a team that is downright scary, much like those Buffalo Bills. More picks for Week 3 next. This episode of Peacock Williamson brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square, and there are certain locations and businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And I'm looking at some actually Pittsburgh area locations that I've never been to Pittsburgh, but Grandpa Joe's Candy Shop, that one, I wouldn't mind hitting that one. And how about
sounds good.
Yeah, how about Trace Brewing? There's a couple breweries here in the Bay Area that feature Square, Laughing Monk, and Bear Bottle Brewing too, which are good ones. And I'm sure there's some in your neighborhood as well. And these local spots are what make the neighborhood feel like home. And so many of them run on Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. All right, Matt. Let's keep this going, making picks for the Week 3 slate of games around the NFL. And I want to go to the Atlanta Falcons that are at the Carolina Panthers. Falcons on the road favored by 5.5 points. And I was asked this question a few days ago, who's the worst team right now in the NFL? And I think it might be the Carolina Panthers once again.
I think it is, and I think this might be my favorite bet of the weekend. I hesitate to do this, but I think Atlanta's defense is really showing promise, and I think they're well coached. They throw a lot at you. They got a really dynamic pair of safeties that allows them to do a lot of stuff in front of them. And I'm buying in on Penix as well. I think this is kind of a blowout.
The Falcons right now look they're 1-1, and they I'm not going to put them in the upper echelon of teams right now in the NFL, but they made a few bets in the offseason, one on the rookie class and fixing their pass rush. And it looks like they've hit on multiple rookies. And so that looks like a check mark so far after 2 weeks. And, obviously going all in that regard on their second-year quarterback, first-year full-time starter in Michael Penix. And so I think those were the right bets as you look at things right now in Week 2, and things could change. The Panthers are a bad football team, and their staff's going to get fired, and they're going to draft a new quarterback next year.
Yeah.
So even at home, 5.5 points, I just can't feel comfortable taking that. So yeah, I'm going to take the favored Falcons on the road.
The other thing, Falcons thing, I hesitate to do because it probably will come back to burn you, like I just did with the defense. Kyle Pitts looks pretty good all of a sudden. Speaking of fantasy tight ends.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Right.
Don't believe. He's a freak of nature. I almost want him just to see him as a new team, a new place, and see if something happens there, right? Which is probably what's going to happen next year for Kyle Pitts. But
I would imagine.
The Denver Broncos at 1-1 are at the 2-0 first place AFC West Los Angeles Chargers. Can't wait for this one. Chargers at home favored by 2.5 points here. And through 2 weeks, the Chargers have clearly been the better football team compared to the Broncos.
They have. And I thought Denver was going to be better than the Chargers. So I'm having a hard time getting that out of my mind. I still have a lot of respect for Denver's defense. But I think Herbert, we were talking about potential MVP type guys, and like a Stafford. I think Allen's in that mix. Herbert's firmly in that mix. And I think the whole team is just leveled up. I don't think that's enough for me to change my tune and get off LA.
Yep, and they should be favored, and maybe not the biggest home field advantage. We see it all the time for the Chargers, but yeah, Chargers by 3. It's a 2.5 point line. Let's go. I'm taking the Chargers on this one, and I think there's something a little bit weird still with Bo Nix and Sean Payton in that Broncos offense, and who knows, maybe that will be, a distant memory by the time week 3 is over. But something's off there. And there's, it's funny because Justin Herbert, there's always been like, what's going on? There's something missing as awesome as Justin Herbert is. Something's missing, something's off. Now I kind of feel that way about the Broncos, and I don't feel that way about Herbert right now with these Chargers.
I think they're humming, and they're playing really well.
The 0-2 Saints are at the 1-1 Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks defense, I am fully on board with. The offense, I'm still not too sure about. The Saints have been a team after 2 weeks that are just good enough to lose. And they've played only NFC West opponents right now. So it's been the Cardinals and then the Niners for the Saints. And now they get the Seattle Seahawks in week 3. Seahawks favored big by 7.5. That's
weird. They have to play 3 non-division, all the same division to start the schedule. I'm very much on board with the Seahawks defense. It might be the best defense in the league when it's all said and done. 7.5 is a little too much for me, though. I know they did some good things on offense against the Steelers, but I am not sold on Seattle's offense at all. And I think the Saints aren't horrible.
It's just a lot of points, and I see that from the Seahawks offense. And again, the Saints have been competitive in both weeks and had an opportunity to go down and score and entire win a football game in the fourth quarter. And Rattler was okay last week.
He's okay.
He's not the worst in the league, and I would definitely put the Saints ahead of the Panthers and some other teams right now in the NFL, and maybe even a team like the Jets, and maybe even a few others, the Browns. So, but again, the Saints just good enough to lose. But 7.5 feels a little too big, so I'm going to take the points here.
Yeah, over 7 is a lot for me for Seattle to give anybody.
I've got a note on DeAndre Swift and the Bears running game here. The Dallas Cowboys at 1-1 are at the 0-2 Chicago Bears. The Bears need to show something before this season gets really away from Ben Johnson in his first year as head coach. Dallas Cowboys favored on the road by 1.5 points here. And DeAndre Swift has, I want to get the numbers correct here. Did I lose it? Yeah, here we go. This one from Josh Norris. Among all running backs, 26 of them in the NFL that have 25 plus carries so far this season, DeAndre Swift ranks 4th best with 1.9 yards before contact per attempt.
Okay.
The Bears are still 31st in rushing EPA and 32nd in rushing success rate in the NFL. And so that points to more Swift that's terrible rather than
he's been horrible
run game, right? So is it time to see the rookie Kyle Monangai more in there, Roshan Johnson, or just something else? And look, that matches with what you saw on the field. Swift has not looked good.
Maybe this should have been like a Brian Robinson landing spot, or Tank Bigsby, or one of those guys. I think Dallas is going to play in a shootout every week, and I don't think the Bears, as currently constructed, are a shootout type of team. I'll definitely take Dallas here. Dak Prescott's played extremely well. The Bears are. I don't know if there's something missing or if they're ever going to get it.
Too many questions right now for the Bears.
Yeah.
I tend to like the home dogs this week. It's not lining up for a lot of good home dogs that I feel good about betting on, and this one isn't big enough with only 1.5 for the Dallas Cowboys, who I think are a better team top to bottom than we've seen the first 2 weeks. I don't think Caleb Williams has been bad. And I don't think Ben Johnson is a bad coach and things are going to be terrible for the Bears, but they've got to turn multiple things around: defense, run game, and you still need to see a lot more.
The defense was.
Yeah, and figure out what exactly that group of pass catchers is going to look like and do, and the pecking order there. Give me the Cowboys. I'm with you.
Okay.
We got two more. We got the Kansas City Chiefs at 0-2 at the 0-2 New York Giants, and I'm starting to realize that, and I know it's been a tough schedule for the New York Giants, but I don't think Brian Daboll is a very good head coach, Matt.
I'm leaning that way too. That he might be a good coordinator.
Yeah. And that's to say that
don't beat anybody big, though.
An 0-2 team favored on the road by 6.5 points, though? That's a rarity.
That is a rarity. And it seems like a line that they don't generally cover. And I don't know if their O-line rebuilt can do a number against the Giants. But I also think the whole world's watching Mahomes. They just heard me say Josh Allen's the best quarterback in the league. Mahomes is going to take over on Sunday night.
It's going to be Matt Williamson's face in the locker room.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Chiefs here and lay the points.
I am going to as well. Prime time, Kansas City Chiefs. I actually think it. Again, this line sucks, and I think generally I would want. If it was last week, I would maybe be like, the points of the home dog, but I don't like the Giants at all. I think Brian Daboll is going to be looking for work, and as good as and look, they put up a fight, and Russell Wilson did his thing. It was cooking last week.
Sure,
this feels like that run into a buzzsaw. Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs,
Jackson Dart conversation.
Yeah. In prime
Giants
time.
D was really bad against Dallas too.
And that's
coaching.
There's too much talent on that front that if that's the way it's going to be for the Giants, then I got to jump all the way off that train. Monday Night Football is the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens. Both these teams 1-1. Both these teams with massive wins in week 2. Baltimore at home favored by 4.5 points here.
I like the Ravens. I'm really impressed with the Lions. Change from week 1 to week 2, great. But I also think Baltimore is just loaded. And I see more holes on the Lions roster in Baltimore Monday night. That's going to be a nasty place to play. I like the Ravens here.
Yeah, I'm looking at the opponents too, and it tells a bigger story about where these teams are. And so the Ravens for me should clearly be the favorite. 4.5 is a pretty good line here. Derrick Henry's a weird one. He had 170 yards, I think, in week 1 and then 30 in week 2. So they got to get that right. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown is just such a good football player for the Lions. And I think the Ravens defense is a team that can defend him and the Lions in the way they operate. So that's why I like the Ravens in this one.
Yeah, me too.
There you go. That is the week 3 slate of football games. If you wanted to know about Pittsburgh at New England or Arizona at San Francisco or the Battle of the Backup, Cincinnati, Minnesota, or any of those AFC South games, we did those on our 6-pack of picks on Wednesday's episode. And we'll talk to you on Monday after week 3 of the NFL season and break it all down for you right here. Peacock and Williamson.